You don't necessarily need OpenAI or Anthropic to build and ship an AI agent. So today I will show you how you can wire up your AI agent within n8n with literally just one node called OpenRouter and have access to dozens of free LLMs. So let's pretend that we have the following use case. I have this Google Sheets table right here, as you can see, and I've just put in some sample emails, right? And out of these emails, I want to have an output like this one, right? So in this table, I am going to have an assessment of the severity or of the area that this specific emails falls into, right? What the next action should be, and so on and so forth, and then also a couple of metadata. Now, I'm going to run the according flow right now, and this is what we're going to build from scratch together. So I'm just going to get the data from here and then just run the flow. And when I jump back into my Google Sheet, into the output sheet, then you can see that this is the result that I got based on this specific email sample input text, right? So how are we going to do this? I'm going back into n8n and we're going to start from scratch. And the first thing that we're going to do is just to add a manual trigger right here, and we're going to get us some data from that specific sheet. So I'm going to go to Google Sheets. I'm going to get many rows. Now, this is connected to my Google Sheets account to the specific sheet, and I'm going to get some rows. I'm going to select this free LLM testing database, if you will, which is this one right here. And then I'm going to choose the input sheet, right? Because this is the data that we want to have. I'm going to execute the step. And then these are basically the items that I got out of the specific sheet, right? So these are just these 3 rows. Now, the next step is already that we want to add an AI agent to this, right? I'm going to select the AI agent right here. The source for the prompt will be defined below. So we are not going to use a chat trigger node for this one because obviously we didn't have added one. And I am going to also add the option that we want to have a system prompt, right? And I have prepared this already. So I'm just going to paste this in here. I'm going to switch to the expression view. I'm going to open up the bigger view so that we can have a better look at this. And by the way, I will share the prompts, the flow, everything else in my free school community so that you will have access to all of this. Now, this is just a very short prompt. You are a support triage agent. Read the customer email, classify severity, identify the product area, and return valid JSON, and so on and so forth. And then I'm giving it basically the JSON schema so that I'm identifying how I am expecting the output to be structured, right? And this is already for the system prompt. And the user prompt is just going to be, this is the next email. And I'm going to say email ID. And I'm just going to pull in the ID itself. And then obviously also the email content. And then I'm pulling in the actual text, and this is what it will look like. And this is what's going to be sent to the LLM, right? So quite simple. Now I'm going to close this, and I'm not going to add the chat model yet. This will be the very last step because this video obviously is about this very fact. What I'm going to do is to first of all add a memory. I'm just going to add a simple memory. And by the way, if you want to know more about memory, I also have a video about that explaining all these different kinds of fields. I'm going to define a session ID, and this session ID will be coming from the execution ID. And as I've mentioned, if you want to know more about this, then I'm happy to share this in my other video. All right, the context length will be 5, and we will stay, or we will keep it like that. And then the next step will be to add a tool. And what I want to do is to add a Google Sheets tool. And this again is connected to my account. The tool description can be set automatically. The resource will be a sheet. And what I want to do is to be able, or the agent rather, be able to append a row, right? And I'm going to select the document. This is again free LLM testing. I'm going to select the sheet. This time I'm going to select the output sheet because now obviously I want the agent to have access to this sheet, right? And have writing access to this specific sheet so that it can literally create or append a new row, including this data, just as we have seen in the demo, right? Now, as for the column mode, I want to map each column manually. The input email ID will be the input email ID of the previous node, right, of the get sheets row. Now, as for all the other parameters, these will all be populated using the so-called from AI method, right? And if you don't know how this specific function works, then also I have shared this in another video called AI Agent Intro. This is where you will find out everything. And I'm just going to fill this out really quickly. All right, so I have now used the from AI method to basically fill out all the remaining fields using these parameters that I'm basically using to give the AI, or the AI agent rather, a hint what I would expect its output to be to fill out this specific field, right? And as I've mentioned, I've explained all of this in another video. Now, this is already it for this part. The next thing is that we obviously want to equip it with a chat model, and this is actually the main part of today. So if I click on this plus icon, And I'm looking for OpenRouter and the OpenRouter chat model. And as you can see, these are all the settings there are, right? So this is again connected to my OpenAI router account, and these are the models that I have access to. Now, the main part is actually, if we take a look into the OpenRouter website, then you can see that it's claiming to be the unified interface for LLMs, right? And this is the actual main point of this, because what this basically does is that it enables you to have access to all the LLMs that are out there, right? And if I click on models right here, then you can see that just with one API connection to OpenRouter itself, we will have access to more than 500 different kinds of models, right? And as you can see on the left side right here, that this includes all the providers that you basically already have heard of, right? So there's Anthropic, then obviously there's OpenAI, as we can see here. So this includes all the commercial models and also the open source models, right? And what this enables us to do, and let's take a look at the number of models that we have right here. Using those filters on the left hand side, then you can see that besides the different kinds of modalities and the context length that we can use as a filter, we also have the prompt pricing, right? Now, if I reduce the prompt pricing to basically free, then you can see that this list is going to be reduced to actually 44 models at the time of this recording. And this will list all the models that are out there that we can use for free, literally for free. So not even server costs are out there, right? Because this will be handled by OpenRouter itself, right? And you can see some also big names here. So such as DeepSeek, we have OpenAI also, right? They do have an open source model. There's even a 120B version of this. Then we have Qwen, we have Mistral, we have Google Gemma, and everything that's out there, right? And just by connecting this one node using the OpenRouter subnode, as we have done within n8n right here, will give us access to all of these kinds of models, right? So if I switch back to n8n again, and then I'm going back into the OpenRouter subnode right here, and if I choose model, and if I look for free, this will list all the free models that are out there, right? So if I choose any of these, then I will have direct access to this specific model. I'm going to choose, I don't know, let's take DeepSeek for instance, and I'm going to close this. And the only thing that's left for me to do will be to run this flow to test this. So I'm going to execute the flow, and this just returned an error. And to be honest, this can happen quite frequently according to what kind of model you are choosing right here. So you might have to test this out a little, right? So I'm going to choose a different model, and I'm just going to test a couple of them and see which one of those will give us a better, or rather an answer at all. All right, I now used the NVIDIA Nemotron model, and if you want to know if and how your OpenRouter LLMs performed, you can just jump into OpenRouter itself, and if you go back into the into your account and then look for activity, then this is going to be the dashboard, right, that you have access to, and this will basically show you how many requests and how many tokens you've spent. Now, the important or the most interesting part in regards to using free LLMs, obviously, is this part right here, right? This is where the costs are listed, and as you can see here, these are now the runs that I took and that were triggered by n8n, right, by the n8n flow. And here you can actually see, first of all, how many tokens it took the model to complete that request on the one hand, but also the actual costs, right? And here you can see that all of these were actually 0, right? And these are the ones that I just used. And if I go back to a forma entry, then you can see that these are the actual commercial proprietary LLMs, right? So here we have Claude, and these are the costs that I'm being presented with, right? And all of these free tools or of these LLMs are actually free. So you are literally not paying for either input or output tokens, right? So these are the information that you are getting in your dashboard, and I quite like the way how they are telling us what this specific column is doing. So here you can see that the number before the arrow is the number of tokens in the prompt, so all messages that you've sent, including a previous history, and then the number after the arrow is the number of tokens in the completion, right? So it's literally explained quite well and understandably for everybody. And as you can see, so this didn't cost me anything. Obviously, you have access to, or you have the possibility to add credits to your specific accounts, right? And you can add credits right here so that you can also use the commercial LLMs, right? And that you will have access, or easier access rather, to these specific LLMs. And then you can also use something like GPT-5, for instance, which is the most, or 5.1 rather, which is the most recent one, and all the other LLMs that are out there, right? And this is just by literally using one node. All right, that's already it for today. Very short video. This is just something that I wanted to get across. And thanks a lot for your attention, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.